Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Because the time has come for Luffy versus Kizaru. Yes, chapter 1093 of One Piece is finally out, and the title is freaking insane. If you would have told me this time last year that in the near future we would be getting a title called Luffy versus Kizaru, I would call you a madman. I would say you were an absolute lunatic. You had no idea what you were talking about. You knew nothing about One Piece, right? But no. The time has come for Emperor versus Admiral. It is going down, ladies and gentlemen. And before we begin, I would like to remind you guys to please hit that subscribe button if you've been enjoying the content. If you've been watching my stuff, I do ask if you can please hit that sub button. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get right into it. The chapter starts off with giant Gear 5 Luffy looking happy as hell, and he has Kizaru in the palm of his hands. He's squeezing him. It kind of reminds me of that one SpongeBob episode, the whole Wumbo Mumbo. Anyway, Luffy proceeds to launch Kizaru into another plane of existence, right? Like, it looked like he broke through another dimension with that throw. Probably one of the craziest throws we've ever seen. And Kizaru is just like his face, he is so unfazed right now.
Bruh.
He's like, oh, be gentle with me. Like, he's not taking this seriously, and it's pretty nuts to see. But yeah, Kizaru gets sent into oblivion, right? We're going to touch up on him later, right? We're going to see him a little later in the chapter. We then cut to Atlas, Vegapunk, and some of the Straw Hats. They have come to the conclusion that they need to go down to the lower stratum and override the pacifistas, because if they don't, they believe that they will not get off this island, and they need to get off this island. Vegapunk's big concern is also Bonnie. He feels that it is his duty to protect her and to rescue her and make sure she gets off the island okay. Sanji overhears this and he says, I need to be in this mission too. So commence Operation Rescue Bonnie and override the pacifistas. That is the B story going on right now. And we then cut to the Fabrio Stratum down below, and we see that a bunch of the Marines have been turned into old men and little babies. Yes, and those are not ideal for combat. I'm not even sure what I would prefer. Like, would I prefer to be a 120-year-old man who forgets everything and who has paper skin and glass bones? Or would I prefer to be a tiny baby who's dumb and has no strength whatsoever? I don't know which one's worse. For combat, that's a tough one. And Bonnie's power is just absolute hacks. That is her ability. She's able to turn these people into, ancient old farts or, tiny little babies. And that's pretty OP. We then see Bonnie. She's pretty beat up from the laser defense system, and she gets a little flashback that as she was falling, the GOAT, Sentomaru, came to her rescue and saved her from potentially, further injuring herself, right? He lets her know that more Marines are coming and that she needs to stay safe. She needs to get out of, harm's way. More trouble is brewing on this island, and it's just getting crazier and crazier. It looks like shortly after this, Sentomaru does fall back down. So our GOAT, our savior, the hero, the MVP of Egghead Island is down for the count. I think I don't see him getting up again. If he does, even further GOAT status for my boy. But Bonnie is saying that she's probably going to lay low until things die down. We then cut back to the rooftop, right? This is almost giving me Onigashima vibes, right? The rooftop, the bottom, all that stuff. We see Zoro and Lucci going at it. Rob Lucci's fully awakened, and Luffy is just having fun. He's in Gear 5. He's looking down at Zoro versus Lucci, and he's like, hey, you need a hand, Zoro? You got this, bro? And it looks like Zoro's got this under control. He's in full King of Hell mode going against Rob Lucci's Kitty Claws, which it's crazy to think that Lucci's claws can stand up to Enma. Like, he's blocking these slashes with his claws. Like, that's pretty nuts. Gotta give him props there, but we also then see Lucci taking another L by admitting that I guess taking an Emperor's number 2 is still a decent consolation prize. Like, weren't you just saying a few chapters ago that you didn't consider Luffy an Emperor? And now you're saying that, oh, maybe taking out his number 2 would be a decent, decent W. No, Lucci, no, dude, you're just taking L after L. If you had high stocks in Rob Lucci, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but, And then while all this is happening, Kizaru, super casually, is just, you know, flying through the air with his arms crossed. He just got thrown by Gear 5 Luffy, and he sees that he's about to hit the water. And he's just like, oh boy, I need to get out of this situation. Let me turn into light and teleport back to Luffy. Bruh. Freaking insane, man. This is a crazy sequence. I love this sequence. I'm positive this is like everybody's favorite sequence in this chapter. Kizaru transforms into light, teleports back to Luffy. Luffy's freaking out because those little light orbs just turned into Kizaru clones, which is insane, right? Like, who would have thought this would have been an ability of his? And then he has all his clones use light blades, right? Like the light swords he used against Rayleigh back on Sabaody. And this is giving me hella Madara using his Susanoo vibes with all his wood clones. He's like, would you like my wood clones to use perfect Susanoo as well, Luffy? But in this case, it's like, would you like my light clones to use their awakening, Luffy? Or should they just use their light swords? I don't know. But one of the swords actually gets a good lick on Luffy, and we get some Sun God Nika blood on the battlefield, which isn't good, right? We don't want to see our boy Luffy bleeding already. But Luffy disposes of the clones relatively quickly, right? He pretty much one-shots them with a brand new attack called Booming Dawn Stamp. But it turns out the real one was not among them. Oh yes. Luffy's eyes pop out of his head for like the third time this chapter when he sees Kizaru getting real kinky with Usopp. He's choking him out, and he's interrogating him on Vegapunk's whereabouts. And it's pretty funny to see Brook is doing the same exact thing he did back in the day. Like, a sword is not going to do anything, Brook. And Nami with her lightning, that's not doing anything either. And we see, and then all of a sudden the Vega tank explodes out of the tube. Like, there's so much going on in this sequence right now. And you got old man Vegapunk all charged up, right? Like, he's like, oh, I'm gonna save Bonnie. Like, I'll be damned if I stand by while a little girl gets murdered, which is, I wonder if this is foreshadowing, right? Like, are we gonna get like Saturn versus Vegapunk, right? Like, is that gonna be Vegapunk's demise? I could totally see that happening because I don't feel like Kizaru actually has it in him to take Vegapunk out, even though in the very next panel we see Kizaru going for the Pika Pika no scope, right? And it looks like he's gonna snipe and absolutely obliterate Vegapunk in the Vega tank, but our boy Luffy is not going to allow that. He jumps in front of the laser beam and turns into full-blown Sun God Nika. I feel like this panel here is foreshadowing. It feels like a parallel of when Luffy first got into Gear 5 and jumped in front of the moon. I think this is like a foreshadowing of him jumping in front of the sun, or maybe even swallowing the sun, right? Because I have a theory that at some point Gear 5 Luffy is going to swallow the entire sun, and it is going to be freaking nuts. It is going to be insane. I'm calling it now. Luffy swallowing the sun, and that is why he is a sun god. But we'll just have to wait and see. But this panel's absolutely epic. I definitely know this is foreshadowing something, but we'll have to wait and see what that something is. We then cut to the Egghead port, and more Marines are landing on Egghead Island, so that is more trouble for Bonnie. And all of a sudden, Atlas and the Vega tank drop down to the bottom floor, and they give the order to override the Pacifistas, and it looks like the Pacifistas definitely heard it. It looks like they're gonna go good. They're gonna help Luffy and his friends, right? Not so sure about that. Hold your horses, because the final panel, guys, is Saint J. Garcia Saturn, and he is staring at something, and he does not look happy. He looks like he's about to stand up and wreck everyone, right? This guy looks menacing. I got a feeling that this guy's powerful, right? Some people are saying he's going to be just some old man with a pretty weak devil fruit, but I think he's going to be pretty strong. Something tells me this guy's going to be powerful, but let me know what you guys think. Break next week, so we're going to get creative with some content. Don't forget to hit that sub button. Like the video if you did. Much love. More videos coming soon. Peace out, guys.